Hey guys, it's time for Bledisloe 3, the Wallabies versus the All Blacks in Australia this time. It has been a draw and a win to the All Blacks, so at this moment the Wallabies do need a win if they want to actually get their hands on the title of the Bledisloe for the first time in a lot of years, but odds are stacked up against them. We'll get into the teams now, or you can skip a little bit ahead. They are playing in the ANZ Stadium. Ben O'Keefe being the referee. He is a referee that does tend to have one or two controversial calls in each game. Unfortunately, I don't want to say that, but it is him. When you get to the history is completely in the favor of the All Blacks. But this Wallabies team, it is a young team. They do look to have a bit of potential. If you do look at the team, the Wallabies did make a couple of changes from that little bit of a thrashing they had against the All Blacks. The last time they played, the Wallabies, their defense was just so poor, and they just made so many handling errors, and that at the end of the day cost them. That type of stuff does happen though when there is a new structure coming into place. A lot like the Springboks when Rassie Erasmus started with them, they made a lot of mistakes and defensive errors until they did get that sorted out. So I'm thinking that's probably the phase they are going through, the Wallabies. There's a couple of guys coming in now. Let's start at the front rows. Number 1 versus number 3 in the scrums are going to be interesting, with Alan Alalatoa versus Tuina Kwafe from the New Zealanders. So both of them coming in. It's 2 Blues in the front row for the All Blacks. I don't think that happens a lot in a starting team for them. The 2 hookers, Dane Coles versus Paenga Amosa, both of them not having the best season when it comes to line-out throw-ins, but hopefully it goes better this week around. The Wallabies do struggle a bit with their hookers at the moment. Slipper versus Tuungafase, I think that's the best number 1s you can find down in the southern hemisphere at the moment, 2 of the best ones. And then you get to number 4 and number 5, Whitelock to Puluto. That's 2 very experienced guys for the All Blacks versus Salakai Lotto and Philip. Both of them are more movable. Salakai Lotto, he's a guy that plays like a flanker on the field. Philip, no one actually knows how good he actually is at line-out time. A lot of people only notice now how good he is now that he is playing on international level a little bit more. Then you get to the flankers. Shannon Frizzell versus Hannigan. Very similar players, but I think Frizzell probably playing a little bit better. Frizzell having a great season with the Highlanders. Also now in the All Black jersey. He's been playing well so far. He scores a lot of tries as well. Then it is Sam Cane versus Hooper. As always, the 2 captains, they are the 2 tackle machines of the team, and they will continue to do so. Sam Cane, you can see what he can do when he is in a proper firing team. Then the 2 youngsters at number 8, the 2 guys that I've wanted to see play up against each other for quite some time now. Harry Wilson versus Hoskins Satutu, probably the 2 prodigies of these 2 teams coming through the rankings. So I want to see how they gun into each other. Very similar players, like thrashing into players. They love running with the ball, love getting a couple of offloads through, score a couple of tries for both of them as well. Then the 2 experienced number 9s, Aaron Smith with Nick White. I think Nick White probably had the upper hand in the first week these 2 teams played. Then Aaron Smith had the upper hand the last time these 2 played. So who will win in Bledisloe 3? Because the one of them that plays better usually ends up winning the game for their team. Then we get into number 10s. Unfortunately, James O'Connor couldn't be selected for this game, so Lolosio is making his debut. Yeah, he was on the bench for one of the games and he just didn't play. I think that would have been good game time for him, because making a debut versus the All Blacks at number 10 is a big ask, especially against a guy like Richie Mahunga, who does challenge the line pretty well. Lolosio is very similar to Mahunga, actually. If you don't know the guy yet, he is a young prodigy coming through for the Wallabies. I think he has a bright future ahead of him. He does like attacking the line, gets good kicks through, gets nice little chips as well. He gets those guys next to him, and Simone have been tearing it up for the Brumbies, and that's why he is starting at number 12, making his debut as well. Simone, he is a guy that gets those passes through. He gets a lot of try assists as well. I think he gets 3 or 4 in a couple of games that I did track him this season. Jack Goodhue, he's under fired so far this season. He's kind of the guy that he doesn't ever play bad, but he's just there at the moment. But it's Jack Goodhue. He can have amazing games when you start doubting him like that. Then ALB, Anton Leonard Brown versus the prodigy Pataya. Pataya is actually one of the more experienced guys in the back line at the moment for the Wallabies. That's always an interesting one. Anton Lienert-Brown, a lot of people want him to be at number 12. His defense is great at number 13. Look how the All Blacks played the other day with him at number 13. Pataya, we know what he can do. Takes on the line all the time. He gets those passes through and he can score a lot of tries. He's just an amazing player if he is fit and he doesn't get injured, because that seems to happen in every game he does play. Out wide, Caleb Clark, he tore it up in the last game. Everyone's talking about him as the next Jonah Lomo, all that type of stuff. That obviously happens every time a big New Zealand winger does amazing things in one game. But don't talk too much about it. At first, it's one game, but I do think he is an amazing player. I do think he'll probably shift to number 13 somewhere in his life, but I think he's an amazing winger. He played well the other day. He's up against Daugunu again. Daugunu isn't the best defender though, so that might have played to his favour as well. Then Korobeti versus Jordie Barrett. Jordie Barrett still sticking on the wing for his brother being at fullback. Jordie Barrett for his big boot. I think that's the only reason he is in the team. I would probably say he should be at number 15. Actually, you could give a guy like Will Jordan or Sevu Reece a chance as well. And then at number 15s, we get the two experienced guys, Beauden Barrett versus Dane Haylett-Petty. Dane Haylett-Petty, he needs to get a start there, because that inexperienced back line, they need some experience in there, because it's basically Nick White and then Dane Haylett-Petty who are the experienced headers in that team, and maybe Korobeti, but yeah. They need that experience in the team. Other than that, if I look at that back line, the All Blacks do have a very big upper hand, but don't count Lolesio and Simone out. They are guys that do attack. Even the biggest guys in Australia, they did so. Then getting into the benches, Ulysses versus Cody Taylor. Cody Taylor staying on the bench. Scott Seo versus Alex Hodgman. Tupou, he drops to the bench. I think he didn't play too well in the previous game. The game before that, he played really well. Versus Tyrell Lomax, also a guy coming through again. He's had limited amount of All Black caps. Then Scott Barrett, what a player to have on your bench. I mean, amazing player. Rob Simmons, the same kind of situation for the Wallabies. A guy to have on your bench. Fraser McWright, he's going to make his debut along with Tate McDermott. Fraser McWright, he is that Pocock-like player that will steal the ball if he can get his hands on it, if you haven't seen him play. Tate McDermott, a very nippy number 9. He does have issues with his passing and kicking sometimes, but if you give him that slight gap, he will try and take on that line and probably score from that. Dalton Papali'i, he finds himself on the bench along with TJ Paranara. Laumape, he gets his nod again for the All Blacks, and he's just going to bust people over there. He's just going to bump players when he does come on. Rico Ioane, he's still at number 23, probably going to play on the wing. And then Reece Hodge there for his big boot. Hunter Paisami there for the number 13 role later in the game. Guys, it's a difficult one to call, but to me, if you look at that back line, the All Blacks just are favourites. They just have a lot more experience. Yes, there is some unknown factor for the All Blacks versus these youngsters of the Wallabies. I hope they do well. I want them to do well. There's some really good players in there that I do like, but I do think the All Blacks are still favourites to win this one by 12 points. Let me know your prediction, though, down in the comments below. I don't know. I can't see the Wallabies keeping it close in this one. It could even go further, but who knows how these stuff ends up at the end of the day. Guys, check out these videos next to me. Support the channel on Patreon. Big Will, thanks for doing that. And then I'll see you for the next one. Cheers.